Hello, I'm very happy to be here with director Connie Field. My name is Deborah Shaffer. I'm a documentary branch member, and I'm very pleased to be doing a Q&A with Connie about her new film, Democracy Noir, which I think is one of the most important documentaries of this year. And I hope you're all watching this conversation after seeing the film, or you will watch this conversation and then see the film. Um, I'm going to start by reading one of the news quotes, or one of the review, a quote from a review that came out after one of the screenings of the film at CPH Docs in Denmark. And the quote says, "Remember 1930s in Germany. In just a few years, Adolf Hitler built an effective party and seized power in the country. That's why every single minute of Oscar-nominated American director Connie Field's film, Democracy Noir, sends chills down your spine. Democracy Noir is a deeply frightening movie, one of the most important films at this year's CPH Docs." And then I just want to add to that a quote from Roger and Ebert, which is a Hungarian tale that rings poignantly in the American ear. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm going to also just give a brief description of the film from an interview that was done by Women in Hollywood. Democracy Noir takes us into the lives of three very courageous women who challenge the authoritarian regime they live under in the heart of Europe. Hungary's Viktor Orban used a free and democratic election to install authoritarian rule. He changed the constitution, took over the courts, dismantled the rule of law, and took over the media. Revered by Donald Trump and the Heritage Foundation, Orban's Hungary has become a mirror image of what we are facing now in the US. Yet the heart of the story is about resistance that never faltered and offers a beacon of hope to us all. So, Connie, my first question is, why did you make this film? What drew you to a film in Hungary? You live in California.
I do, and I don't speak Hungarian, Deborah, but my husband does because he's Hungarian. So this is why Hungary is a very big part of my life. We've been going there almost every year since 1990. So we've been watching the changes all this time through a really wonderful group of friends that we have. And I actually started trying to film in 2014 because it was clear to us that Orban was a real danger. We happened upon this demonstration, and there was four empty pillars surrounded by police in one of the main squares, and all these demonstrators. And what it was about, they were trying to stop Orban rewriting history. Okay? He was trying to rewrite a history that Hungary suffered under Germany during World War II. This is what the symbol of the statue was, as opposed to Hungary being Germany's ally. So that's what actually got me going was this demonstration, which I started filming. And that's where I met Nico. Nico was only in her very early 20 years old. She was there with her uncle, and we became Facebook friends from that time. So I kept up with everything she was doing for years and years. So that's sort of what really started the project. I couldn't raise money then, but I could in 2021 when I really restarted it again, because I brought on my producing partner Sigrid Deicher, and together we were able to make this film.
So it was really a seven or more than a 7 year process from start to finish. How many years?
Yeah, since then, 2014 till I finished shooting in 2000, actually 23.
And so you just told us a little bit about your first character, and who are your other two?
Well, we decided we needed more people, and Timea Sabo. Timea is an opposition member of parliament, and I always call her an attack dog. She's unbelievably feisty and unbelievably clear. I saw her in action actually on YouTube. And so then I went and met her and brought her on as the second character we were going to follow. She happened to get into parliament exactly when Orban became the prime minister for a second time. And then right before we were starting to do a major shoot around the elections of 2022, I decided I had to have a journalist. I had to have one on board this project. So I actually interviewed a bunch of journalists on Zoom and then picked Babette, who was fabulous. So
And
that's
that gave
how I
you
got
the opportunity, of course, to follow it as a news, to follow them following a news story, and
right.
gave you a lot of structural and content like framework for the film, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your biggest challenge making the film besides trying to raise the money, which obviously took a while, but and you can talk about that, talk about the funding. But beside, in addition to the funding, what was your biggest challenge?
The fact that I don't speak Hungarian. I mean, it was on some level like making a film blind because it's very difficult when you're following action. You really can't have someone at your ear translating everything. There's very few translators that are that good. I've only had one in my life who was good enough to do something like that. There was nobody in Hungary to do that. And also I was shooting. So I had to trust that I was gathering enough good things that I could make the film I wanted to make out of this. So that was the most nerve-wracking thing. Luckily, these are all wonderful people who really helped shape the story of the film because they're the ones who tell us what's going on and what happens.
So that's just a wild that's a wild approach. So
It
you
is.
get back to the editing room and you had how many hours of footage that you didn't really know for sure what the content of the dialogue was in the footage.
Lots of it, lots of it. And in fact,
And what did you do?
well, one thing, look, one thing were very beneficial to us was AI, okay, because it has translations that are actually quite good and they can give you it in terms of editing, right, with the time code. So that was fun. So we had absolutely everything transcribed. The conversations between people we had to actually send to Hungary because it was more difficult because there was a number of voices and AI really can't translate that very well. But and plus I gathered a ton of archival footage because Orban, his story was told in archival. So we had a huge amount of material. And what I usually do with my editor is I do a paper cut of a scene, give it to him, and then he starts editing. So that's how we work. Yeah. And luckily it worked out.
I was going to ask you about the process a little bit, but you've just explained a little bit about it. Well, for us here, I mean, it's probably stating the obvious, but tell us from why is this film important? What do you want people to take away from it? What can they take away from it?
Well, unfortunately, this film is very relevant to our country now. You know, when I finished it, it wasn't. I wanted actually to try to get it out to let people know there was a real danger if Trump was elected. I think people didn't quite get it. Okay, but since Trump has been elected, what everybody sees is where his playbook comes from, because it very much comes from Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban and his Danube Institute is very close to the Heritage Foundation, who was very involved with the ideas that created 2025. One thing that shocks people when they see it, it's like it's all there, what Trump is doing. So I think it helps people to comprehend the situation that we're in, so we don't feel completely overwhelmed by it. Okay, because we're getting thrown one thing after another, one thing after another. This actually puts a framework on it and says, this is the playbook, this is how they do it, this is what's happening. And also because the Hungarians never, ever gave up resisting. Never. And so what that means is now there's an opportunity to actually have someone else win besides Orban. There's a new party in Hungary. It's outpolling Orban. It's getting tremendous support. And that's because there was also a ton of people who never gave up fighting. So I think it has a personally important message for all of us here.
Well, that's great. Is there anything you want? Is there anything else you want people to know that you want to say about the film? I think we've covered my questions and my comments.
Well, no, the most important thing is basically what I said, that I think it has tremendous relevance to what's going on in our country. It gives us a clear view of what this authoritarian playbook is about. It shows you very clearly that these people are organized internationally. Okay, and that creates a big danger. And so we obviously have to work very hard to get out from under this, which I believe we can. So,
And I just want to close by saying, please see the film if you haven't. It is beautifully made. It's beautifully shot. I'm impressed that you shot it and directed it. It's really I think it's one of the top documentaries of the year, and I really urge everybody to see it.
thank you, Deborah.